Jeff, would you please share your story with us?
Sure. Thank you, Pastor Dan. 7 years ago, tomorrow actually, Sandy's carotid artery dissected and she had a severe stroke. After she was stabilized in the intensive care unit, she spent the next 6 weeks recovering and rehabilitating in the hospital. She came home in mid-March in a wheelchair, and our new life began. I embraced my role as a caregiver, wanting to help and serve and love my wife well. There was a lot to keep up with, but keeping busy was good for me. Our church helped with meals and transportation and other things as well. Sandy's faith and trust in God was strong throughout, but mine was weaker. After several months, the reality of our new life began to set in. This was not a temporary situation. Now, I knew that when we left the hospital, but it was a whole other thing to experience that day after day. I started focusing on myself, and each day began to feel like a big routine full of duties and responsibilities. And I became overwhelmed with feelings of frustration and depression and isolation. And I didn't talk to Sandy about it because I was trying to be strong for her. But then I started meeting with a Stephen minister from our church. His wife often came along and visited with Sandy while him and I talked in another room. And I felt uneasy at first. What were we going to talk about? And how was talking even going to help? Were these meetings just going to become one more thing for me to do? But it turned out to be just what I needed. We found things to laugh about, and I realized that it had been a while. We spent time reading and talking about God's Word and praying together, and I began to see our situation from a different perspective. At one point in our meetings, he asked me, does this situation make you want to turn to God or away from God? And I knew I wanted to turn to God, and saying that out loud gave me encouragement and felt like a fresh start. Obviously, there are still some challenges and frustrations in our life, and I need to monitor my attitudes and my emotions. But I have learned it's okay to admit my faults and weaknesses and to let someone help. I should have talked with a Stephen minister sooner than I did, but for me, it was a problem with pride. I didn't want to appear weak. I will always be grateful to my friend who helped me reconnect with God during a time of despair. Proverbs 18:24 says, there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And that is how I think of my Stephen minister.